have the pleasure this time around of enjoying the great outdoors with Matt Daly from Posh, Plonk. Thank you so much for inviting us out to your vineyard.
Thanks for coming. Absolute pleasure.
I know you've done a little bit of research to see what you have to live up to in terms of the Journey series.
Yes, yeah.
But always start with your ties to the area. So how long have you been here in Bethanga?
So in Bethanga, 1.5 years. Yeah, my parents used to bring me up as a very young boy to visit Nan and Pa in Albury for about 12 years. And then we moved here. And I spent most of my teenage years in Albury growing up. I went to North Albury High, which was a great school, and then proceeded to go and explore the rest of Australia.
Yeah. So you went to Melbourne after that, sort of as you were exploring around, you settled in Melbourne?
No, I actually went to Queensland. Yeah, so Queensland, I had a career opportunity in Queensland, which I followed, and grabbed that with both hands.
Yeah. What does your resume look like?
Interesting past, and the reason why I say that is the opportunity that I took off to Queensland for at the age of 17 was to go race jet skis. That's what I did for a living for 12 years. I followed my sponsors around the countryside, but the majority of my sponsors were based in Queensland, so I had the pleasure of racing for Kawasaki Australia and Yamaha, and did a lot of time with Sea-Doo Australia as well. But a lot of their shops and a lot of their big shops were based in Queensland, so that's where I headed. I had a bit of a stop, in Wollongong on the way up to Queensland when I was 17, when I was racing for Yamaha. But for me, it was just an amazing way to see Australia as a young fella, and Dad really wanted me to get into AFL and had a bit of time with the Albury Tigers as a junior.
Yeah.
But I hired a jet ski on Lake Hume one day and just fell in love, and that was it for me, and forged a nice career out of that.
So quite a long one. How long were you doing that for?
Until my bones started getting sore, and ultimately retired at the tender young age of 27 from jet ski racing, because there was a lot of younger kids that were getting into the sport that didn't mind if they broke their arms or legs anymore, and I was starting to think about that, and as a racer you can't think about slowing down. So I hate talking about it, but Karen says you've got to tell people about your past because it's exciting, and I was lucky enough to win 5 Australian championships, and then retired in 2003, and then had to get a real job.
Yeah, and what was the real job that you go to after you lived the childhood dream of jet ski racing for a decade or so?
The real job was into real estate. Effectively I had sales in my blood, and that was from having to sell myself, sounds a bit bad, but sell myself throughout my jet ski career to sponsors and different organisations, so they could support me racing throughout those years.
Yeah. And so here we are now sitting here, your latest project, and I guess employment is Posh Plonk.
Yes, yeah.
Was it real estate right through until that epiphany that you thought there's a property with a vineyard, let's go for it?
There was a bit of a gap in the middle, and that was in resort management, and I went up to far north Queensland after spending a few years in general real estate on the Gold Coast, and wanted to explore far north Queensland, and landed an amazing job at a resort just out of Mission Beach, which put me in really good stead for my next role, which was back into real estate and development, but in retirement living. We had a resort in far north Queensland that I worked at, which catered for retirees, and just loved being a part of that scene and engaging with retirees and hearing their stories, and I was just fascinated and loved my job. Came back to Melbourne, effectively looked for a role in sales, and started working for Stockland. They're a big corporation that does retirement living and commercial and general real estate. So I jumped into their retirement living business.
How do you think other people would describe you?
Determined, a little bit quirky at times, and someone that has a bit of vision, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I find it intriguing that you've shared that jet ski race. All I can see you now is in wetsuits and jumping waves, and I can't take you seriously. No. Have you ever had that? Have you ever had that before when you first got into the real estate and into that sort of commercial side of things? Were people sort of like, this fella was jet ski racing?
Absolutely, and that's why I stopped telling people. I actually, for many, many years, never talked about it. I always get prompted now by Karen, my beautiful partner, saying, "Matt, it's a big part of your life. You know, you've got to talk about it," and that's probably the reason why we're here, is because of, you know, being so determined to go out and win stuff, and do well at things, and be driven.
What do you do with your spare time now? We can see the weir in the background.
Yes,
You've got the jet ski past. Is that still part of the makeup of your lifestyle?
Yeah, it certainly is. And you know, I always have had a jet ski attached to me, and now I've got the family wagon in the shed. It's a 3-seater, and there's nothing more than I love getting out on the water with, you know, a beautiful little daughter and Karen and friends and family, and just spending time on the weir. You know, that's where I learnt my craft, was on Lake Hume and on the Murray River. So it's a real homecoming for me. Yeah.
Let's talk about something that you might be able to tell me now, and I think you've already done it in telling me the jet ski racing.
Yeah.
It's something that other people might not know, whether it's about you, a fun fact, or something that you find intriguing.
I think the jet ski racing would be it. You know, as I said, not many people know about that, and you know, I left Albury quite young to go pursue that, and then established a career in real estate, you know, after that. But you're going out and winning a few titles. It wasn't about the winning, it was the adventure, you know, as a young fella, and going and seeing Australia and doing 8 Australian tours. You know, also giving credit to Mum and Dad when I first started jet ski racing. You know, Mum and Dad would be dragging me around the countryside, you know, to support me, you know, in my sport. We never had much money, but they, you know, loved the idea of what I did. You know, Dad was a bit, "You should be playing AFL," but I'm like, "No, I want to go race jet skis." That's a bit of me that not many people know about. Yeah.
So let's go on to your Posh Plonk then. Let's talk focus on that a little bit, because that is your pride and passion at the moment, isn't it?
Absolutely is.
So where did this idea come about?
Well, Posh Plonk, a lot of people say, "Oh, you know a bit about wine, and you know you talk really well about wine, and you seem to articulate it well." The only thing Karen and I knew about wine was drinking it, but we knew what we liked to drink, and we knew what we'd like to look at, and that's where Posh Plonk was created. You know, I had a fascination with the Prohibition era, you know, back in the day where you couldn't, you know, drink any alcohol, and the way they got away with it was wrap their bottles in a brown paper bag. And I thought that, you know, that would be an amazing idea for a brand, but instead of a brown paper bag, let's make it look really flash.
Yeah.
So we're still wrapping that bottle, and people looking at it and getting, you know, a different concept of what wine should be.
So which came first, the property attached to a vineyard or the concept of wine?
Always wanted to come back to Albury. And it's funny, when I left at 17, you leave Albury-Wodonga and say, "I'll never go back there." And then you see what's on offer around Australia, you know, and it's a pretty good place where we live. So coming back, you know, was always the ultimate goal. Karen's a bit of a city girl, so it was really tough to influence her to come back, and she set me what she thought was an impossible challenge one day, and that was, "If you can find me a winery somewhere on the water, I'll be in the country before you know it." And I'm like, "I know where one of those is." Because I watched this place actually come out of the ground when I was out in the water back in the early 90s, and was always intrigued by this development and Lake Road. Yeah, came and knocked on the door one day, and that was all she wrote. 3 years later, we owned it. We didn't have the money to buy a winery. there was no way that we could afford it at the time. But the old owners that were here, they're just magnificent people that, you know, wanted to see, you know, someone go into their pride and joy, that shared the same passion that they did. And Karen and I absolutely shared that passion for this property.
Let's talk some more about Karen. We'll divert onto that part of the journey for a second.
Yep.
Where did you meet her?
I actually met Karen many years ago up in Brisbane, about 20 years ago. You know, really got along famously. We were both married at the time, so you know, nothing ever become of it. But through a very challenging breakup with my ex, you know, that's the reason why I left Queensland.
Yep.
To come home as such, to come back down to Victoria. And lo and behold, Karen was in Victoria as well, just by chance. And all this only happened about 8 years ago.
Yeah.
So it was just meant to be.
Yeah.
And then we fell straight back in to what we wanted to do, and haven't looked back since.
Yeah, and you've got your own child now.
Got
as
our own
well.
child now, and she's 7, so it tells you something how quickly we got on.
That's all right. I have our first child was born the day after our first wedding anniversary.
Right,
So
okay.
yeah, don't worry about that. That's something we share in common. Back onto the wine.
Yeah.
You spoke about the wrap being
Yes.
that sort of a bit of a quirky difference, a
Yep.
point of difference. Has that been your point of difference breaking into sort of the wine market? Because there's a lot of wineries, big and small, isn't there?
Yeah, there is, and it's probably one of the most competitive industries that you could enter into. And when we were telling people what we'd like to do, they thought we were crazy. But I had an idea in mind, and I knew that if it looked good and it was promoted appropriately, it would go well. If we went into a restaurant or a wine bar anywhere in Australia and with a bottle of wine and said we've got a great Shiraz from Bethanga, I think we'll get a few blank stares. But the moment we walk into any establishment, whether it's locally, regionally, or in another state, the wrap gets people's attention. And we knew we had a really good wine. The good thing is that the wine that is produced from this property is sensational. So we knew that if we got in front of someone and they liked the wrap, they would effectively try the wine, and the proof was in the quality of the wine.
Did you know the quality of the wine before we bought the property?
Yeah. We come along and had a few taste tests here with the old owners, and off the back of that, we knew that we were onto something good. We expanded our range now past what this vineyard can produce. We produce amazing Shiraz and Durif from this vineyard, but we've gone out to the King Valley and Alpine Valleys now to create a true vintage sparkling, which is our vintage cuvee, and also a Pinot Grigio. So we've effectively got 2 whites and 2 reds, which is what our market was asking for. They accepted the reds really well, but we had to go out and find something special. And we're so blessed to have the King Valley and Alpine Valleys on our doorstep, and Rutherglen.
Yeah, and so you had the wrap as your main point of difference.
Yes.
How have you broken into the market, getting the higher circulation or volume and growing out, I guess, outside of the size of a vineyard? What's been the drive behind that success?
Being a new business, we had no money for advertising, and up until 18 months ago, I never had an Instagram or Facebook account. But you're hearing all the stories of people's success around the country. We really looked at that avenue to promote our brand. Yeah, we opened up a Instagram account and a Facebook account under Posh Plonk, and started to get some really good images of our bottles. And being so different, we started to get quite a good following, not just locally but nationally, where we're starting to see a huge market in the corporate gifting space. And we set up Posh Plonk to stand out on shelves in restaurants and wine bars and boutique bottle shops. But then all of a sudden, real estate agents and gifting organisations from all over Australia are reaching out to use Posh Plonk because of the way it looks.
So did you get some traction locally first, or has it sort of just spread organically across the nation?
It's spread organically, but the support locally has just been phenomenal. Went to all the premium outlets that we could find regionally. Went in with our offering. Yes, it looked different. There was a bit of scepticism around what it would taste like. But once the restaurants and wine bars and boutique bottle shops that we went into tasted the wine, they picked it up. And I think one thing that we want to do is stay fiercely independent. So what that means is that we want to ensure that this region gets at least 50% of Posh Plonk year on year, because the support from this region has just been excellent.
It's interesting to hear you've sort of recognised our area, that you now call home, a few times throughout this conversation so far. I think the highlight has been so far that as a teenager, you sort of couldn't wait to leave.
That's right.
And here now you are. You can't thank the region enough.
Yes.
For what it's given you later in life.
Yep.
It's fantastic to hear. Let's talk about getting your product in front of influencers.
Yes.
So how do you approach that?
The influencer market nationally is an untapped resource. We were first posting our wine on Instagram and Facebook. We'd watch who liked the image first, then would watch who would start following us. And really anyone with more than 5,000 followers is an influencer for us being a small business. So we found out that wine is an amazing currency as well. So once someone liked our post or followed us that had a substantial amount of followers, we'd reach out to them and say, hey, Matt from Posh Plonk here, we noticed that you liked our stuff. We'd love to send you a bottle and see what you think. And off the back of that, we might have sent out probably 10 to 15 bottles in the first couple of months. Off the back of that, a bigger influencer would follow us with 100,000 followers, and then would say, would you like a carton?
Yeah.
And the answer was usually yes. And to buy that now, you're looking at in the tens of thousands to get an influencer to promote your product, but we believed in our product that much, and it looked different. So those influencers would then post a picture of themselves with Posh Plonk, tell their friends about it, and then it started to escalate from there. I think where it really started to hit home was that we had an organisation approach us that do a lot of work for the Spring Racing Carnival, and they said that they wanted to use Posh Plonk in their imagery instead of Moet or Verve because they looked pretty and they wanted to give it to the models to hang on to and take some photos. Off the back of that shoot, we got another amazing approach for another organisation to do a wedding shoot, which was at Salt in Daylesford. Now, quite a prestigious restaurant in Daylesford, and that just went gangbusters. And then off the back of that, we were approached by a crew that does work for Chica, off the Real Housewives, and she wanted to use Posh Plonk for her Mother's Day shoot. So it just grew and grew and grew. Even our following on Instagram and Facebook after a year and a half, we're sitting about 6,500 followers over that period, ranging from people that are local right through to high profile people from around Australia.
And other than the product, that hasn't cost you a cent.
Hasn't cost a cent. No, which is amazing. As revenue comes in now, we can afford to do it, a bit of advertising locally, and mainly to thank the border community for what they've done for us. Yeah, the power of social media has just floored us. But I think the most important thing is the quality of the imagery. Karen would get so angry with me because it would take me 30 shots to get one good one of a bottle with the sunset behind or down near the lake, but the quality of that one image really sparked interest. So we'd do that, post every day without fail, but now that we have those other organisations taking photos for us, they also send us the file of the photo shoot, so now we get to use other images which are from amazing photographers from around Australia.
So did you have to learn to become a photographer as part of this process?
Yeah. I did. It's an iPhone photographer, is there such a thing? Yeah.
I think everyone's a photographer now.
That's right.
Technology in your phone. Posh Plonk Partners.
Yes.
Explain that title, that label.
Yeah. I think that as a small business, we don't have customers or clients. When someone takes a bottle of our Posh Plonk to sell to one of their customers or clients, that's a big thing because we're a new business, and to gain trust is a big thing. So everyone that stocks our wine in Australia, we call them our partners because they've really taken trust in us to produce something nice and ensure that it's consistent. And they took a risk on us. When we first started, there was restaurants locally. we'd only bottled our wine a month before, and it was on their shelves. So we really appreciate that support, and so that's why we call anyone that we supply our wine to that carries our wine, they're our partners. And it's the same with hamper organisations around Australia. They've gone out on a limb to trust our brands and trust the wine will be good year on year. So we just want to thank them for that, and that's that's where that Posh Plonk Partners term has come from. Yeah.
Tell me, what's your plan next? You've mentioned you're already producing through other wineries within our region.
Yes.
An extension of product. Does this go beyond this property for you? At some stage, just to just keep, growing and growing, particularly if you're having the success of influencers.
Yeah. Well, I think that we're absolutely blessed to have such good quality fruit in our region, and the fact that we can access that to grow Posh Plonk is really exciting. We know that we've got great fruit here, but we can only produce about 5,000 bottles a year here. We've gone past that now, so we've gone out and it's for our winemaker who's in Rutherglen. Ultimately, to source some really good supplies and some good fruit for us, so we can still create the best experience we can for our partners around Australia.
So what about outlet sales of your Posh Plonk? Cellar door? What's your plans around that?
As you can see, we're in a pretty special part of the world. We'd love to be able to open up our property for a cellar door experience. One thing that we wanted to really ensure is that we don't want to open the doors and let people come in willy-nilly. We want to create a real experience. So if someone does come out to the Posh Plonk cellar door, they'll register online. They'll get instructions of how to get out here and what they're going to experience when they're here. And enjoy it, and enjoy the property, and enjoy the view. And one thing that we wanted to do is have the experience out in the vineyard or down near our dam, so people can actually feel a part of their surroundings. We're in a very unique location, being close to the water. There's not many wineries like that, in the region. We just want to create an experience, something that's quite boutique, and have very limited numbers for attendance to ensure that people can be looked after and we can tell our story. People that come out, and our clients from around Australia as well, they want to touch and feel where the wine comes from, and they want to enjoy the story. And as you can probably tell, I love telling the story about our wine. And that's what Karen and I want to do. We want to ensure that the numbers that come out are small, and that people can really enjoy and experience when they come out.
Where would people find your wine now if they're suddenly inspired by this or haven't tried it before? Where do you get your hands on it?
We have a very big online business. Our online business caters for all of Australia. We have free shipping Australia-wide, and we have same-day delivery to Albury and Wodonga residents. But locally, you'll find us at a lot of the nice restaurants around the region, at La Maison, Miss Emily, Atura. You'll also find us in the Cellar Door Wine Store in Beechworth. The Good Shed have been great supporters of us as well. If you're going out for a dining experience in Albury Wodonga and you do regularly, there's a chance that you'll come across Posh Plonk.
And I think it's important that you recognise those people at this point in time too, that have obviously been very instrumental in your growth.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the key businesses to support us early was a Border Wine Room. And it's going through change at the moment. But that support really helped grow our brand, locally as well. And we look at establishments, like the Public House. They carry our vintage sparkling, and and they've replaced a really high-end international brand, with Posh Plonk, and it just means the world to us. That local businesses are doing that and recognising what we do.
Yeah, good on you. What would you consider to be your biggest achievement in life so far? You've shared a couple of significant ones with us, but what would you think that is? Biggest
achievement in life, I think, yes, would absolutely be moving back to Albury and starting Posh Plonk. But conversely, I really think that Karen and I getting together after being apart for so long and never even thinking we'd ever see each other again, and then having a wonderful daughter in paradise, that's a massive achievement for me.
What's the toughest decision you've had to make in life so far?
The toughest decision? I don't know. I look at decisions, there's been lots of tough decisions, both positive and negative, and I can't pick one. I think all decisions lead you to a certain point, tough or not. I think all those decisions have led me here, yeah. And you seem to be very thankful for that. Absolutely.
What's the worst thing you think that's ever happened to you?
The worst thing? Oh, gosh.
I'm instantly thinking jet ski.
Me too.
Carnage or something.
A couple of good broken bones and broken jaw. The broken jaw was showing off in front of the cameras for Inside Sport one day, and went over the handlebars and smacked my head on the front of the jet ski. Cameras rolling, and you never lived it down.
Amongst your mates.
Yeah.
What's the best thing that's ever happened to you? I think you've sort of said, perhaps being here.
Yeah, it is. The best thing is being here, with the people I love, and being so close to mum and dad again. Mum and dad have been an Albury institution for forever, and Mum is very big in the community. She does a lot for the Breast Cancer Network and cancer support, and has been through it herself. And I really, really love the fact that our little girl can run up to Nan and Pa and give them a big hug at any time. Feel a part of the family, and us being back, we really feel we're back a part of the family again. Because being away from your parents for 20 years is tough, and only visiting from time to time is also tough. But now that we're back with a beautiful little girl in tow, it just means the world to Mum and Dad, and to see that is very exciting for me.
Sounds like you've found a comfortable spot. Have you got work-life balance correct?
At the moment, there's a lot of work, but building any business, I think that you're wedded to your pride and joy, and that's what it is for Kaz and I at the moment. Poor Kaz, she leads a corporate life at the moment and is away for 3 to 4 days a week, and then comes back on the weekend, and here she is tying bows on hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of bottles. But it's our passion, and we might be wrapping those bottles and tying those bows over a couple of wines, so when the bow gets a bit wonky, it's time to stop. But it's our life at the moment, and it's what excites us. Yeah.
Matt, I've picked up that your life is probably fairly stabilised by goal setting. Would I be correct in assuming that? It seems like everything from the design of your bottle right through, and then you're wanting to be the highest distributed and gifted bottle of wine in Australia.
Yes.
Let's talk about goals for a second. How important are they?
I think they're really important. I'm not one to write down goals on paper. If you set your mind on something, it's an ever-evolving feast getting there. And I reflect back to jet ski racing. I wanted to be Australian champion, at all costs. And to get there, I had to find sponsors, and I had to find the appropriate machine to ride. And you think that you're going to get there a lot quicker than you normally do, but might have had to settle for a slower machine, or didn't have enough cash coming in from certain sponsors. So the journey was longer than what I would have liked. And with the wine, as well, we would never have expected such growth in such a short period of time. I think you let the business dictate your goals, and that's the way I've always led my life, is that things will always change. And with Posh Plonk, we set up the business to stand out in restaurants and wine bars around Australia, but now 70% of our market is in the corporate gifting space. That's something we never ever expected. So now we've gone with that. We've adjusted our business model accordingly to ensure that we can keep up with that demand of the corporate gifting space. But if we set a goal early on in the piece with Posh Plonk to supply every restaurant in Australia, I don't think we would have been setting ourselves up for success.
Yeah. If you could be anywhere in the world tomorrow, don't worry about money, don't worry about... where would you be, and who would you be there with?
It sounds a bit cliche, but I seriously think we've landed in one of the best spots in the world. But saying that, if the Monaco Grand Prix was on tomorrow, I wouldn't mind being there in the harbour on a super yacht with friends and family.
That'd be all right, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
If we sit here in 5 years' time, Matt,
yep.
What sort of conversation are we having? Is it very similar to this? What's happened to Posh Plonk and I guess to your family in that time? I
think, for us, watching our daughter grow here is exciting for me and Karen. But Posh Plonk, it's a juggernaut at the moment. We don't know where it's going, and we're along for the ride. My goal for Posh Plonk is, for it to be, the most gifted bottle of Plonk in Australia. And, it's rapidly getting there. We just need to make sure that it gets in front of as many people as possible, and we keep the quality where it needs to be. Because like any wine brand, it doesn't matter how good it looks, it's how it tastes. And if you have one bad year, that's a year that everyone will remember. So we need to ensure that quality is always there. All right, Matt Daly, it's been a pleasure to sit here on this wonderful property of yours. Hopefully I can come back in summertime. You certainly can. I have a jet ski myself, so fantastic. We can hook up again and enjoy Lake Hume over the next coming summer. Thanks so much for your time and sharing your journey with us. Pleasure. Thank you. Thank you. Cheers.